Joining me today is David Kibbe, author of David Kibbe's Power of Style, a guided journey to help you discover your authentic style. Internationally celebrated style and beauty expert David Kibbe has spent more than 40 years championing his philosophy of love-based beauty, a transformative approach that encourages women to value themselves beyond unrealistic beauty standards. Throughout his career, he has challenged traditional ideals that rely on external validation, believing they damage confidence and self-worth. His empowering message emphasizes that personal style is a powerful expression of I'm having trouble today. Individuality and a meaningful way to connect with others. He has reached audiences worldwide through appearances on the Oprah Winfrey Show, the Today Show, CBS Morning, CNN, and he's published in the Wall Street Journal, London Times, and USA Today. Welcome to the show, David. Nice to have you on.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
It's great to have you here, and I know it's only not only, but it is audio. And I kind of sense maybe your disappointment because we're talking about style, that we're not
Oh
going to
no,
be able to see each other. But
okay. Well, that's. I'm only disappointed because I can't see you. That's the
I
only
know. Well,
reason.
that's okay. It's early in the morning.
But I looked at your picture, so I'm picturing you in my head.
Yeah, and that's good. Look at the picture. You don't have to
But
look at
let me
me.
say something about that because it's interesting. See, I think people get confused with style, fashion, and trend. Style is not just about what you look like. Style is about your energy. Your style is everything you are. We often concentrate on what we look like or our appearance, but it's your voice, it's the way you move. We all have a rhythm that is internal, that comes from deep inside of us. It's connect to your breath, connect to your heartbeat, and think that every single person on this planet has their own unique rhythm. And style is how we bring that out into the world, which means then that every single person on this planet is a unique and special individual. So your style should reflect that. And when you understand that, it's sort of like a superpower that you have. You put your energy out into the world, and if it's love based, which my whole premise is love based beauty, then you're bringing your light to the world, which is all about uplifting the world. That is what your style has the power to do.
Okay, that's what our style has the power to do. But it seems as if, and we're gonna talk about women,
Mhm.
really look for that external validation. It's
Yeah,
out there. We're looking for it. We can't seem to get away from it. Many women do, but I would say that most women don't. We get
you're
hooked into
right.
fashion
Oh,
and
yeah,
trends. So,
yeah.
how do we kind of extricate ourselves from all of that and
Well, you
say,
have to start at the beginning. First of all, you have to be willing to say, I don't want to I don't want to value myself by these external ideals. That's the whole premise of my work. All those years ago when I started this is what I kept saying, that men do this too. It's just, we're talking more about women, but it is everybody. But let's concentrate on women. Women have been brainwashed for decades, centuries, with this idea that there is a self to discover outside you, that there is an ideal to discover, that that there is an ideal that you must reach for. And all the rules, whether it's these horrible fruit things like be a pear, be an apple, be a banana, or whether it's symmetry, or whether it's balance, or whether it's following fashion, the dictates of fashion, they're all ideals outside the self. But you can never ever reach authenticity if you're trying to reach for those things outside the self. So you have to really say, okay, a whole new paradigm. Let's shift our vision. Let's go inside. Let's go inside to where I feel. All right. So this is why I created along the way a different way of getting to this. Instead of this intellectual approach that starts with all these things that you're like a list of things you're supposed to make yourself do, let's go inside. Let's see how you feel, how you experience, because that is always going to come from inside you. You cannot, you cannot, you cannot quibble. No one can judge you or question how you experience life, how you experience situations. So I said, okay, let's go back to the beginning. What do we really need? We need self love, we need self acceptance, and then through technique, this is what I'm about, self celebration, and then you can share your light with the world. But the most important thing is to remember that number one, your style, whatever you want to call it, starts inside yourself with your heart, with your soul. Now it passes through the template that we've each been blessed with. Your body, your face. I always like to say, nature created you. Nature's the master artist. You're a painting with your coloring, and you're a sculpture with your body. So that's what you've been blessed with to work with as your media, so to speak. But it's really your dreams, your heart, your soul. So get in
So
touch with
I
it.
want to stop you there because when do you start doing this? I
Mhm.
assume not when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s. You need to start, as we're talking about women now, little girls. What do you do when
Yeah.
you're a little
Well,
girl?
little girls have it naturally. I tell you something. This is so interesting to watch. You know, you see little girls. I mean, I live in New York, in Manhattan. So, and I have a great little coffee shop right on the corner of a big avenue. So I just sit there in the beginning and I watch the parade of people go by. But the little girls are the most fun because they almost always want to dress themselves and they will put themselves together in the most crazy ways, but it's charming because you know they don't have these rules, and you know they're like they're free spirits. So they you have that. We're born with that. It's the things we learn that create the problems. I always say, you know, like little babies don't come into this world wishing they were something other than what they are. They just exist as the pure little bundles of love that they are. So that's what we need to get back to, and it takes practice. But that's why in the book I devise a series of games to play instead of thinking about these things. Because anytime you go to a thought about this, you're going to be reaching for something outside yourself. So, how do you get to authenticity? Well, you know, Carl Jung said that you do not, that I'm going to paraphrase, that change is never achieved through the intellect, but always comes through the play instinct. So as I start working with women years ago, you know, I am trying to get them to see themselves in a better light. Like the very first game in the book is called My Three Loves. And the point is to learn to look at yourself with loving eyes. So I make everyone stand in front of the mirror and I make them say and write down three things about themselves that they love, about their physicality. And it could be an eyelash, it could be a fingernail, it could be a toe, it could be a nose, it could be anything. Get in touch with that because that instantly changes where you're coming from. Like when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, see, we bring all these prejudice and preconceptions to the table. But if you can start from a place of love, then you've already shifted the energy. And it's step by step by step. But it is a process. And you know, the older you get, the more you have to unlearn. But one thing I have noticed though is, you know,
Well, the
go ahead.
older you get, because I've gotten older, and I always thought I looked great, and my friends and family will tell me I always thought I looked better than I did. I think that was not an issue, but the
Mm,
issue becomes, and I think I really want to focus on this because I have a lot of women listening to the show who are, say, 50 and older, and I've
yeah,
always loved myself, but I'm not loving myself so much anymore because
yeah,
your
well, it's hard in this culture, which is very much youth oriented, and it tells you once you get a certain point, you're done. Let's put you out to pasture. Oh, I'm so against that because you see, I look at it this way: in nature, there is every single element of nature, whatever we want to call it, every species, from flowers to animals, and including humans, really gets better as they develop. If we could replace that concept of aging, which we have been brainwashed into thinking, oh, we are just literally falling apart, with no, you're getting more beautiful. Like a rose, a bud is very lovely, but it is the blossom that we reach for. So you want to start thinking of yourself in a different way. You have to detach from all these outer forces that keep coming at you. That's the most important thing. I love working with women who are 40 plus because they have experience, and that is what is so beautiful. When you but you have to start with self-acceptance. Of course our bodies change somewhat, but they don't have to change the way we're brainwashed into thinking. We are not falling apart. We're coming better. What about experience? What about wisdom? What about all the wonderful things you know now that you did not know in your 20s? I mean, that is what's beautiful to me. And if you can work in harmony with nature, you'll see it just flowers. But all the rules that we have been given work against that. They're trying to say, look younger, you must look younger, you must look thinner, you must do this, you must do that. No, 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 no. You must not do anything except live your life to the fullest. And if you think that if you start from that place, then you can work in harmony with what's there. And I will tell you, what is there is so beautiful at whatever stage you are. So, you can do things now you could not do when you were 20. You would not be able to even come close to them. So this is the process. But the technical stuff is you got to learn about your coloring and you got to learn about your body. You have to learn that you are a painting, but you're a masterpiece and work in harmony with what's there. And you've got a beautiful sculpture. So how do we want to drape around the sculpture? Clothes hang off the shoulders and they drape around the curves. We just have to figure out a few things. And then you work in harmony with that, and it is organic. It evolves, naturally. But that's the way we're built as humans. We're the only species that tells our fellow man that we get less as we get older. A lioness doesn't waste any time wishing she was a cub, or a beautiful bear doesn't wish that she was a little bear. No, and a rose doesn't, a blossom doesn't wish she could backtrack into being a bud. They don't think about that. It's our head that gets in the way.
Our head does get in the way, and I think that's true. But then there is that reality check. Let's say you said 40 and above, and you love
Mm-hmm.
working with women who are 40 and above, and you
Mm-hmm.
feel good about yourself, and you do the things that you're suggesting that we should do, and I think that's a good thing. But, then you go and you need to buy some clothes or
Mm-hmm.
shoes, and they're not available to enhance that
Mm-hmm.
feeling that you have about yourself. They're not
Mm-hmm.
out there.
Well,
And
that's very true. I mean, there's two things about that. Number one is that's why you learn a different technique. You see, my way of working with people is the opposite of probably what anybody else does. Because, most people will tell you, like, well, if you're short, you need to look taller. If you're tall, try to make yourself minimum. If you're very curvy, you need to be more powerful. Or I don't believe in any of that at all. You are exactly what you're supposed to be. Working in harmony with what's there creates a whole different technique. So when you learn this technique, first of all, you're going to be open to ideas you didn't know existed. Because a lot of what you look for in the shop is what you're used to looking at. Like we all have preconceived ideas about ourselves, and that's what we shop for. So first of all, you have to change that and you have to get new technique. Working in harmony with what is there is a very different thing. See, most people come in with a concept of what they think they need to look like. I'm telling you, no, 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 you don't need to look like any of that. We need to just learn how to learn your right silhouette and learn the palette of colors that you work with. And then you go to your dreams because you have that technique and then you can reach for those things. Now, you are right about a lot of stores. A lot of stores, you know, they follow too much, especially fast fashion. That's all trend. And you want to get rid of trend because trend is not about the individual. You have to remember that style is always personal. This is why these rules that you should do don't work because they put everybody in categories and they're saying everybody should be this. And that's what trend means. Trend means it's trending. That means everybody's doing it. Well, that's the opposite of style. You should march to your own drummer. But the other thing today that is good about the internet is that you do have access to things that are not in stores. Now, that's its own problem because you never know exactly what you're getting when you order on the internet, and that is a big issue. But it really is about, Kathryn, learning a new technique about what, if your body may have changed somewhat. There are certain things that don't, though. All right, for example, you need to understand your framework. Your framework in terms of your body is really like looking at yourself like a sculpture. And this has nothing to do with weight. You may put on a few pounds, you may lose a few pounds, you may put on a lot of pounds, you may lose a lot of pounds, but your structure is still the same because it's based by the bone structure, like the shoulders determine how clothes hang. and the curves on the body determine how they drape. So if you're built, for example, if you're wide through the upper back, you have that width. It doesn't matter what weight you are or not. You're always going to have that. So you learn that structure. And then once you learn that, then you see you're free from all those other ideas that people are pushing on you. And then you can go to your dreams. And that's where it really happens. Because I make everybody, before we work with anyone, and I work with my wife when we work personally, Susan Slavin, who's a fabulous person, if you see her online. She's gorgeous and she's so talented, and I love her so much. But what we first do is we go through, we have the women do a dream board, not a mood board, not a vision board, a dream board. And we tell them to come up with about 20 or so images, and they can go all over the internet to get these. And they can have a few fashions, but it's not mainly that. I want them to have architecture, I want them to have music, whatever tickles your fancy. If an image gives you goosebumps, I want it on your dream board. And then we get a sense of where that person is really coming from, because our dreams lead us to the next step. Because here's the important thing about this: style is not what you look like, it is your aspiration. It's who you came to this planet to be. So I'm always looking for people's potential. So that's what I want people to get in touch with. And I want, first thing is, get this idea, start with self-love. We've got to get you into that frame of mind. Then we get to what brings you joy. You have to learn the technique, or it's like it's not going to make it, not going to focus. You have to learn a little, but it's not hard. We are just working in harmony with nature. That's the key. It's just,
which is interesting in terms of what you're saying, because fashion, and I'm putting this in quotes, fashion gurus will want you to address, well, what are your flaws? What can we correct?
I am just so opposed to that. That's why I started this whole thing all these years ago. In my book, there are no flaws, only unique characteristics. Someone says, oh, my nose is too big. Your nose is your anchor to your face. And it is the whole point that gives you the character that you are. And maybe you're majestic, or maybe you're delicate, or maybe you're spunky, or maybe whatever you are, we're all these things. But you have your own unique beauty. See, I look at women as if they're all flowers in this garden where there's only like one flower each. And, it's like a multitude of all these different floras. And you're a rose, you're a calla lily, you might be a daffodil, you might be a stargazer lily. Whatever you are is what you are, and it's so beautiful. But fashion is a business. You see, and especially today, fashion and trend are very much connected. Fashion is always about today, because conglomerates own all the design houses. They want to make money. So
yeah, it's all about the money, is what you're saying. Yeah,
it's all about the money. And trend is based on planned obsolescence. And today with fast fashion, I mean, if you go to a store like Zara, they have some great things there. I'm not disrespecting Zara, but they completely turn over their sock every 2 weeks. Well, that's just crazy. And if style is what you're looking for, that's not what you're looking for. You may go there because you like something like that and you want to integrate it into your own vision of yourself, but you don't follow that. See, most fashion gurus today are celebrity oriented anyway. So they're connected to a celebrity, and the celebrity has a designer endorsement. So they're not presenting the celebrity, they are advertising the clothes. Like, that's the red carpet today. In the old days of what they call old Hollywood, the red carpet was like a cavalcade of stars. Like, each star had such a specific image because they had to. That was the whole studio was created on that. So they were star factories. So they really did have everything invested on creating a Katharine Hepburn or creating a Jean Harlow or something like that. Today, that's not the way it is. So today, it's about advertising the clothes. Like, a red carpet today is filled with plastic surgery, so everybody looks sort of the same, but then they're advertising these dresses, and some of the dresses are gorgeous, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the celebrities. And that's the hard thing. And it's very, very hard for young people with social media, because they are bombarded with these things. But you remember, what is the algorithm based on? Money, spending money. That's what they want you to do.
And what do you have to say? You sort of just almost touched on it, but Botox and
Oh, well,
facelifts, and women starting to do that in their 40s,
oh, my women are doing it in their 20s and
20s.
teenagers doing Botox. It's a whole trend. Well, I'm not anti any of that stuff if it's used in harmony with what's there. It's not my favorite thing. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not opposed to it, and I understand why people do it. But the idea is underneath, you've got to identify, what are you really seeking? Are you seeking to bring your light out into the world as your unique individual? Are you seeking to follow what someone's told you to do? And the message, especially to older women, is you've got to stay young. It's artificial. But I always feel like when women are too tightly done, it's like as if you took a rosebud and you wrapped wire around it and you were trying to force it from blossoming. That's the effect that you get. But the problem is, the media keeps presenting that, and we start to accept that. We start to accept today that the best way of aging, which I call evolving, not aging, is to have a lot of surgery. And so you get used to these fixed faces. And look, listen, cosmetic surgery is a godsend to some people. And you can imagine, like, people that are born with a cleft palate and things like that. And also, I'm not against people doing it for cosmetic reasons, but the idea, if you're doing it to try to stay artificially in one place, then that's an issue, because what you're really doing is squelching your spirit. If you can really understand again that style is not the pursuit of trend, style is sharing your unique light with the world and bringing that joy to the world, because that's what happens. Because when you see a woman of any age and she is in her element, whether she is really 20, whether she's 80. I mean, look at Iris Apfel. She was phenomenal. There's so many women that are like that. And today we have a different, people don't have to age the same way, because we also have things at our fingertips, like health, like nutrition, like taking care of your skin and things like that, that are very healthy things to do. But you see, also, it's this concept of what aging means. That words by themselves are just words, but it's what we bring to that word that really creates the problem. And when we hear that word aging, and the ageism is a terrible thing today, we think of old, falling apart. But what if we think of it instead of, what if aging was just a process of evolution? What if it's evolving? What if it's blossoming? Because there are women like that are in their element. Like, look at an actress like Helen Mirren. She's always been wonderful, but would anybody ever have wondered, when that woman, when she was like really young, she was sort of like a hippie chick on in movies. But to imagine that this woman has emerged to do all of these different wonderful parts, from Queen Elizabeth, both Queen Elizabeths, to all the things she's done. I mean, there's so many examples of that today.
So do we need those role models? That's a good thing. I mean, you're talking about
Yeah,
Helen Mirren,
yeah,
yes, and I'm thinking about Meryl Streep.
yeah.
So,
Well, that's very true. There's a lot of them. But that's why I wrote the book, to give people a different anchor. I mean, you
but there's
need to.
always, David, you might feel and be able to, and after we read your book, maybe have a better sense of being able to do this. But then you get into that real world situation. And
Yeah.
I have girlfriends who have young daughters, and they
Mhm.
walk down the street and they used to get the cat calls, my friends, and all of a sudden they realize that it's their daughters that
Yeah. Well,
the
that is a part of life. But then at that point, like, I understand. Everything in life, if you're really in touch with yourself, is sort of bittersweet, because that's just the planet Earth we live on. There's lots of beautiful things here. There's violence here, and the process of evolution means you're not a bud any longer, but you are a rose. So if you can concentrate on what you are, that really helps, and let your daughter get what she gets. But on the other hand, did you really, like a lot of them, do you really want those cat calls? I mean, they're a boost to the ego, especially as you get older, because you feel flattered. But also, your audience is different. You don't. This is a
you don't
wide.
need that audience. There are other
You don't
audiences.
need that audience, and you probably don't really want it, because
You know,
the baggage that goes along with that is something that the young girls have to get through. And it's very hard for them. I would not want to be a teenager today. It's so hard. So, if they get a catcall and you think that's a nice thing, let them have it. Give them a little bit, because it's so hard on social media. It is so hard because every insecurity that you probably had as a teenager is out there for the world to see, and their peers are all out there. And, there's nothing private. I mean, you can't go through these things on your own anymore. Everybody does it, in front of everybody, which is not an easy thing to do. So, it's always a double-edged sword. But I think, the more you concentrate on what I say, self-love, self-acceptance, self-celebration, which you do through learning the technique, which allows you to put your joy out there. Because you see, I feel like we all come to this planet with a purpose, and our purpose comes from inside of ourselves. So whenever we get in touch with that, we're in our element. It's like being aligned with, whatever you think God or the universe or any of those things would be. For me, it's love. That's love-based beauty.
Yeah.
Being aligned in that is the most important thing.
So the more you love yourself and you stick with it, that sort of generalizes or permeates your environment, and people respond to that. Yeah.
Isn't that true of everything, though? And style, you see, style is just an expression of who you are what your identity is. It's your identity that we're really looking to solidify. And that is something that just grows and blossoms. And your identity does not fluctuate according to trend. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger when you get in touch with that. And the best way to do that is get in touch with your breath, because we all breathe in our own unique way, and you can do those deep breaths. And I like imagery. If you can have a beautiful image, like I call it your image of awe, like something that brings you that moment of awe, like it could be a beautiful beach, it could be a memory of your wedding, it could be anything. That takes your head in a different space, and then you can breathe. Your energy already changes. It's natural. You see, I believe what I'm doing is a very natural thing. I think if we didn't have all these outside things, which are always based on somebody making money, we would naturally evolve. And then it would just be like, well, we would learn this, and then we would learn that. It's a process of becoming more.
And how does the partner that one chooses to be with, how does that affect all of what we've been talking about? Because, you mentioned your wife, Susan, in glowing terms, and she is beautiful. But I'm sure your relationship with her and the way you feel about self-love, self-beauty, authenticity affects how she feels about herself.
Oh, well, I would hope so, because we spend so much time getting clothes for her. And so, well, it's a tricky thing.
Better, right?
Right. Well, I can't take credit for too much of it, because, she is her own, she was an actress in Hollywood. She is an actress. She's amazing. As beautiful or more on the inside as she is on the out. But when you're talking about your partners, you want support. So sometimes you have to insist on it. And sometimes maybe, you chose a partner for the wrong reasons when you were earlier. And that can happen. But it's a good thing to if you really love your partner, then this will only help them, because if they love you, the fuller you are, the more there is to love. And if they don't love the person that you are, well, you deserve something better.
Yeah. And we have to end on that, because we have 30 seconds left. I got so engaged in the conversation because I want you to give us platforms to go to, website for more information, obviously, about we can get the book, I guess, bookstores.
Yeah, or online. You can order it from any online. Yeah, David Kibbe's Power of Style. Our website is davidkibbe.co, not .com, but .co. So you can go there, and it tells you how to get in touch with us if you're interested, and has all the information. I mean, I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm not a social media addict, and I don't post all the time like a lot of social media people do, because we're too busy doing things in life. But the best thing to do is go to the website, davidkibbe.co. And, we're happy to talk to anyone. And but I hope people pick up the book, because I really wrote it to be an antidote to this crazy, crazy, crazy atmosphere that we're in.
Yeah,
it
and
is
we
40
do
years.
need that anecdote. There's
It's
no
40
question
years.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my life, what I've dedicated my life to. So, that's it. But,
Right.
you're a wonderful person, and I'm so glad to have had the chance to talk
Well,
with you.
great talking to you. Really good conversation. And I've been talking to David Kibbe. Yes. And good luck with the book. People need to read it, and really appreciate your being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much.
Joining me today is Dr. Kenneth Barish, PhD. His new book is The Art and Science of Parenting and Grandparenting, Raising Emotionally Healthy Children in a Challenging World. Drawing on neuroscience, child development research, clinical practice, and his own experience as a father and grandfather, Dr. Kenneth Barish addresses the questions that keep parents and grandparents up at night. How do we protect our children's more emotional health in an era of rising anxiety, depression, and loneliness? How do we support a genuine love of learning rather than a fear of failure? Dr. Barish offers comprehensive, multi-step guidance on all of it, written with the clarity and warmth of someone who has sat with thousands of families and knows exactly where the hard parts are. He's clinical professor of psychology at Weill Cornell Medical, and he is a visiting professor in Wuhan, China. I'm not going to try to pronounce the medical college, and a fellow of the American Psychological Association. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kenneth Barish.
Thank you, Kathryn. I'm very happy to be here.
Well,
Nice to
I'm
be
really
talking.
excited to have you here because I'm a parent and a grandparent. So I have a lot of questions to ask you. And I
Okay.
thought I am going to start asking you this. We're talking about parenting, grandparenting, which I'm really interested in. And I look at our country and our grandparent, the grandparent of this country, and the person who is our president sets a precedent and normalizes behavior that I don't think that as a grandparent one would want our children to emulate.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree with you very strongly about that.
Okay.
We want to teach our children and grandchildren empathy, kindness, concern for others. And these are not qualities which are often evident in our current political leaders.
So what do we do about that? We look around and we have those kinds of adults that we're looking at, parents, grandparents. I know that's the whole political divide. I don't necessarily want to get into that, but how do we protect our children from that?
So we are mentors to them. We are role models for them. And we practice kindness and we talk about not only their feelings, but other people's feelings. There is research on this. Kids who show the strongest moral development, who show the most concern for others, have parents and grandparents who talk to them about their own feelings, acknowledge their feelings of disappointment, frustration, but also other people's feelings. And I think that's the best thing that we can do when we talk about their feelings and other people's feelings, including our own, then we're nurturing a spirit of kindness and compassion.
Well, your book specifically talks about grandparents, and there aren't a lot of real grandparenting books. And so it is unique, right? Um, how, what's unique about grandparenting? What makes us unique as grandparents? I know you have two grandchildren, I have four grandchildren. Yeah, and it is a unique experience. And I think one of the things that you said was, you are a highly respected psychologist, all kinds of experience, seeing thousands of families. But then when you had the opportunity during the pandemic to actually be in the trenches with your own grandparents, some of the stuff you talk about changed.
Yeah. So being a grandparent is in some ways not very different from being a parent, but we have some, as you say, unique roles. We are insulated from some of the daily conflicts that parents have to go through in getting their kids through the day, getting their kids to do what they need to do. So we're able to take a step back. I think of it in three ways. We support them by listening to them with encouragement. We teach them. We teach them in a different way, though. We teach them about the meaningfulness of things. We can tell stories that increase their interest and in learning and the meaningfulness of learning, and we can inspire them. One of the things that I've learned about kids is that our kids look up to us, and maybe even especially grandparents. And that feeling of admiration and awe that young children have for us as parents and grandparents is really one very deep feeling in children. And when kids look up to us, then we become mentors to them. And that is a source of inspiration that I think that grandparents can provide. And
And
there's more. I have to say one more thing, Kathryn.
okay, go ahead.
We should play with them.
I did. I played with my I'm exhausted. I played with them all day, 2 days. Yeah.
When my grandkids, when we got to their house or they come to our house, the first thing they ask us is, "Can you play with us?" Their play has a special importance in the lives of children that we actually don't often appreciate. When we play with kids, they're happier, but they're also more cooperative. They learn accommodations to others. They learn how to cope with things that don't go right in the course of play. So my first advice to new grandparents: have fun, play, sing, enjoy them.
What about, I mean, this question I assume comes up fairly consistently or often. What do you do when you, as a grandparent, disagree with what because you're still a parent, you're a parent and a grandparent, your kids are doing with your grandchildren? How do you handle that?
Okay, that may be the most difficult question that you could
It
ask
is.
me. So here's some guidelines about that. Um, the parents are in charge. We are not supervisors. We're consultants. We're called in when asked to give our advice. And even then, to engage in a dialogue with them rather than telling them what we think they should do. One of the principles in the book is having problem-solving conversations, which are dialogue, not debates about who's right and who's wrong. When you have a dialogue, you listen to someone else's concerns and you express your concerns. And then you try and reach some kind of understanding of each other's concerns. And that works much better than telling parents, you should do it this way, or you should do it this way.
So you have to be a little bit more, you don't have the same freedom that you're not in control of the situation as you were with your own kids, even though you're not completely in control with them either, or weren't. But how, okay, and here's another part to this question, because maybe it's easier to have that dialogue, not debate, but that dialogue with your own son or daughter, but not with your daughter-in-law or son-in-law. Do you have to have the conversation at the same time, or or what do you do?
I think it's better if it's possible because it's more respectful. One of the things that we don't want to do is create more conflict, either between ourselves and our children or between the parents. So if we have a concern, again, not an opinion, a concern, that's a very big difference. It sounds like just a semantic difference, but it's really not. If we have a concern, it's actually better to express it to both parents because that's more respectful of their joint responsibility for the kids. Now, there's some issues that we may have to be more firm in our opinions, and those have to do with health and safety.
Yeah, health and safety, health and safety obviously is critical. And so maybe this brings me to my next question. When your grandchild will share something with you, supposedly they just want to share it with you, they feel comfortable, and yet you feel, I need to share this with their parents, but how do you handle that?
Okay, so again, I would use that guideline. Health and safety are the things that we need to share. Other feelings, other concerns that they bring to us, we can keep confidential and we can say, all right, this is just between you and I. But when it comes to something that directly affects their health and their safety, that's something that that requires us to share it with parents. And kids understand that, I think.
Kids, yeah, they do understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do. There are lots of different outside factors from social media, and we can go on and on, that affect our children, adult children, and our grandchildren, different than, say, that affected us and our parents. So what are some of the things that they're confronted with?
So you named it, social media, electronics are so prevalent, and we growing up simply didn't have to deal with this. I tell kids in my practice that when I was growing up, I had a television with 6 channels. And now, of course, we have cell phones and we have social media, we have video games. And I've been convinced from the research it's been summarized by Jonathan Haidt and others, Sherry Turkle, that these really are significant problems in kids' lives. They have great addictive potential. They have potential for increasing a sense of despair, comparing their own lives to the curated lives that they see on social media. They draw kids away from interaction and into a screen. So these are definitely significant concerns. I don't think, though, the problem is solved just by establishing rules and limits on the amount of screen time. Like everything else, we have to engage kids in a problem-solving conversation. We have to ask about their concerns, express our concerns, and then ask for their ideas. I suggest to parents to say to kids, okay, what do you think? You know that these things can be addictive. You know that these can be problems. What do you think would be good rules for our family? That's a different kind of conversation. It's a proactive problem-solving conversation. And out of that comes some family rules.
It's also very positive as opposed to you can't do this. You have so many minutes on, watching this show, setting up all these rules and regulations. You're making it getting their feedback is a very positive connection with them, right? It's very different than.
Our kids are much more likely to listen to us if we have first listened to them. That's a certain kind of credo of mine. And yes, otherwise it becomes a constant battle, and we're monitoring. And there are ways to monitor kids' screen times, and some parents are able to do this effectively. But if we engage them in a dialogue about it, we're just going to be much more successful.
What do you think about our children, and I'm still calling them children, but the parents who also are engaged with social media and have lots of, there are so many parenting books and trends and telling them what they should or should not do. And it seems to me as a group, and I guess I'm talking about what millennials, Gen X, I guess not Gen Z, maybe. Um, and they sort of listen to that I'm calling it stuff. And sometimes it's all about getting them to buy things that they don't really need. But they kind of tune into that. And I mean, I see a lot of that, and so and that affects their children,
Yeah.
they don't use common sense. Maybe this is what I'm trying to say.
Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, right?
Yeah.
And their their lives are more stressful than ours were. Their lives have more of this potential to be influenced in a negative way by what's out there, by the internet and social media. I think still the best thing we can do, though, about that is not tell them what they're doing wrong, just to strengthen our relationship with them, to be people that they can listen to. They're still, uh, parents are still interested in what we have to say and what we think. And if we convey this as our concerns or our experience, rather than what they're doing wrong, we're again going to be much more successful.
And let's talk about intergenerational families, and which I think is a good thing. You
Yeah.
see a lot of families, parents, grandparents, kids going on trips together. A lot of and which I don't think we had that, or not as many opportunities. I think that helps to strengthen the connection between generations.
I agree with you. I think it's very good for kids. Our generation did not have that so much, but the generation before us did. There was a time in American history where multi-generational families were the norm, where grandparents, aunts, and uncles lived with or nearby their children. So grandparents were much more a part of their children's lives. Then, when we were growing up, I guess you and I are the same generation, that was less the case, but now again, it's more so. We now have the ability to be more present in our grandchildren's lives and in multi-generational settings. Kids have more people to go to. It's a win-win-win. It's a win for kids because they have more support in their lives. It's a win for parents because we relieve them of some of the stress of parenting, which actually lets them be better parents because they have they're less stressed. And of course, it's a win for us because we get this feeling of being a grandparent and an inspiration in our grandkids' lives. That's just a wonderful feeling. So it's a win-win-win.
That is a win-win-win. Let's maybe you would share with us, how would you have done things differently? If you look back about raising your own children, are there things that stand out that you did or did not do that you would do differently now, today?
So that's a great question. And I've been asked that question before.
Okay.
And I asked my kids, what
Yeah.
what should we have done
Yeah.
differently? My wife and I got a very reassuring answer. And I think they weren't just being nice to us.
Yeah.
They said that as they look back on their childhood, it's not this particular disappointment or this particular frustration or this thing that they thought we asked them to do or didn't let them do that was unfair. As they look back on the big picture, what they remember is encouragement and support. And these other things that bothered them at the time don't seem so big in retrospect. So that, besides being nice to hear, also I think is a lesson for us. We should keep our eye on the big picture.
Yeah, it's the bigger picture.
The bigger picture, there will always be conflicts. I can remember my daughter telling me I was the worst father in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And this was because she had just gotten her driver's license and I wouldn't let her drive on a highway to go to the mall. I decided pretty quickly that actually I wasn't the worst father in the world. But what they remembered, they hardly remember that anymore. Those conflicts will be there. But if we follow basic principles, take an interest in their interests, offer enthusiastic encouragement, less criticism, more encouragement, being available to listen. The best thing that parents or grandparents can do for their kids is to listen to them. Because when kids feel that someone is listening, they realize that their bad feelings are not going to be there forever, that problems can be solved, relationships can be repaired. These are the more essential lessons. And the momentary conflicts that we have, even if they get very angry, don't stay as important.
It builds on the connections and the feelings that you have, and you have to stop and do that. I think you were talking about earlier, things can be, I don't want to necessarily say chaotic, but frenetic, and everyone's going in one direction or another, and you kind of have to stop and listen, as you're saying. Many of my friends, I mean, you heard when you're in the car with the kids, driving them to the sports games, for instance, that's when they'll tell you the most intimate details of their lives.
Something about being in the car.
Yeah.
Something about either being in a car or being on a walk. So I think there's something about, there's a little bit more freedom there. But I also recommend, especially for younger kids, and I did this with my kids when we were having tension between us, take 10 minutes as you're putting them to bed and just talk. Say, hey, is there anything you wanted to talk about? Anything that happened today that you want to talk about? Or let me tell you something that happened in my day, something I was frustrated with. Or tell a story about when we were kids. Kids absolutely love to hear personal stories about when we were growing up. My daughter, when she was 3 years old, said at the end, every night, tell me a story about when you were a little boy. Tell me a story. We can make that a routine in our kids' lives.
Yeah, and I think I was probably with my grandson, one of my grandsons, when we would take some of these trips, intergenerational trips, and I would share a room with him, and it wouldn't be at night, but it would be in the morning. We'd wake up in the morning and he'd want to talk for 10 minutes.
Oh.
And that was sort of our quiet time before the day began. And it, exactly what you're talking about or recommending. Yes, that's the best time.
In my book, I call this the most important 10 minutes of a child's day.
Yeah.
And the reason it's so important is it's also an opportunity for us to repair moments of anger or misunderstanding. We can apologize to our kids and grandkids. You can say, I got very angry at you yesterday, and I think I was right to be angry because you weren't listening, but I think I got too angry. So I apologize for that. And that moment then brings their stress level and their level of resentment way down to zero. And we've repaired that moment, and we can move on to more positive ones.
One of the criticisms that my kids, because I have asked that question um, about my parenting, and I have 3 boys, was that they were always critical of me. I was very concerned about what college they were going to get into and, their activities. And they always accused me of, you're only concerned about my resume. And you've just got to do the best that you can do. And they did. And they did well. And, fast forward many years, that's one of the things they say they're glad that I did, because they have friends from the colleges they went to, and a lot of things, um, happened because of it. But at the time, it was always a kind of a source of contention.
Yeah. It's a really difficult problem in affluent communities.
Yeah.
Very difficult problem. There is a kind of just an atmosphere of relentless pressure on kids.
Yeah.
Even more now than there was when our kids were growing up, and certainly much more than when we were growing up. And my parents also wanted us and my brothers to do well, but there's the pressure for individual achievement can be very destructive to kids. What we can do about it, though, is to balance it. One of the things I'm recommending more and more, and I talk about in the book, is helping others. Helping others is an antidote to this relentless pursuit of doing well in academics and in sports and in all the activities the kids are involved in. Because helping others brings more balance into kids' lives.
How old should they be when they do that? Because I do agree with you. Instead of, uh, like elementary school or middle, yeah.
Elementary school. Elementary third graders can read to first graders and kindergartners. There are lots of opportunities for helping others, even in elementary school. We should make it a regular part of our lives. It's non-competitive. You're not trying to win or be better than anyone else. You're just trying to help someone, and gives kids actually a very good feeling about themselves. And it also balances the pursuit of individual achievement with what I think is a better goal, and that is to make a contribution to our families and our society. And if kids are focused on making a contribution, doing for others, that helps offset some of this pressure that they feel and the anxiety that comes with it about their own achievement.
Yeah, I do. I think that's critical. We have to say we only have a minute left. So a lot of what we've been talking about obviously is in the book, but so much more: the art and science of parenting and grandparenting, raising emotionally healthy children in a challenging world. We touched on some of the issues. Dr. Kenneth Barish. So, Dr. Barish, so give us websites, platforms to go to for more information, and I assume we can buy the book anywhere or listen to it on Audible.
The book will be available at the end of June. And my website is www.kennethbarish.com, and more information will be available on the website in the next couple of weeks. And people can contact me through the website, and I would be very happy to receive messages from people, questions, and I will answer them.
Fantastic. Well, you answered a lot of questions today, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and it's been a fun discussion.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back.
Okay.
Thank you.